Blessed is he who reads aloud the words of the prophecy, and blessed are those who hear and who keep what is written therein, for the time is near. Revelation 1:3. So let's dive in and trust the Lord that he will give you wisdom and understanding as we go verse by verse through the book of Revelation. Always remember Acts 17:11, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily whether these things were so.
Revelation chapter 12. War in Heaven. Revelation 12, verse 1. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. The woman described in celestial images. This will be the first of 7 signs that John will relate. This particular one is a great sign, mega semeion. Women often represent religious systems in Revelation. Jezebel, in chapter 2, verse 20, of false teaching. The great harlot, chapter 17, verse 2, of false religion. The bride, chapter 19, verses 7 and 8, of the church. The woman, chapter 12, verse 1, of Israel. Roman Catholics claim this woman is Mary, as the Queen of Heaven. Mary Baker Eddy said she was this woman. It is common in Roman Catholic art to represent Mary as standing on a crescent moon with 12 stars around her head. Scripturally, she can be identified with Israel, according to Joseph's dream in Genesis 37, verses 9 and 11. In that dream, the sun is representative of Jacob, the moon represents Joseph's mother Rachel, and the 11 stars are the tribes of Israel, which bow down to Joseph. We have the identity of the woman as the nation of Israel, those 12 tribes that came out of Jacob. Revelation 12, verse 2. And she was with child, and she cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. The woman gives birth. Later we will see that this child born of Israel is Jesus. The pain described refers to the travail of Israel at the time of Jesus' birth, being under Roman occupation and oppression. You see, the purpose of God for the nation of Israel was that they were to bring the Messiah into the world. He was to be the seed of Abraham and of the seed of David. And so God was working with this nation, preparing them as the instrument, the nation by which his Son would come into the world. God had to choose some nation, so he chose the nation of Israel. And that is why they are the chosen people. Chosen for what? Chosen to be the instrument, the people through which God would bring his Son into the world. Revelation 12, verse 3. Then another sign appeared in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads were 7 diadems. The dragon. Specifically, the dragon is Satan, as stated in chapter 12, verse 9. His description symbolically suggests his fierce power and murderous nature, a picture of the fullness of evil in all its hideous strength. The crowns represent his presumptive claims of royal authority against the true king. He wants to be considered a king. The 7 heads refer to the city from which Antichrist will reign. The city referred to throughout history as the city of 7 hills, Rome. The 7 heads refer to a geographical place. The 10 horns refer to Satan's political base. The horns, like the 10 toes of Daniel 2, typify the 10-nation confederation that will emerge from the old Roman Empire. Revelation 12, verse 4. And his tail swept away 1/3 of the stars of heaven, and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child. The dragon looks to the earth. Many believe this describes 1/3 of the angelic host in league with Satan, his angels of verse 9. This army of angelic beings in league with Satan make up the world of demonic beings. The attempt to devour her child was initially fulfilled by Herod's attempt to kill Jesus as a child in Matthew chapter 2, verses 16 through 18. Then throughout Jesus' life, as he was attacked by Satan, as we read in John 8:58 and Mark 4:35 through 41. Lucifer was chief of all created beings in heaven. When he launched a rebellion against God, 1/3 of the stars, a biblical term that refers to angels, were cast out of heaven with him. Satan's attempt to annihilate Israel is an overriding theme throughout both biblical and secular history. Whether it is through Cain or Pharaoh, Haman, Herod, or Hitler, Satan has been so relentless in his drive to destroy God's people that at one point only one son of the house of David was left alive. Why have the Jews been perpetually persecuted? The only explanation must be the one we see here in Revelation chapter 12. The dragon is determined to devour the child of the woman. You see, if there is no Jerusalem, if there is no Israel, if there are no Jewish people, how could Jesus fulfill the prophecies of his return to rule and reign his people in Jerusalem? Consequently, the plan of the dragon is to keep Messiah from returning to Israel by annihilating the Jews. Revelation 12, verse 5. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and to his throne. The child. Jesus' ministry is described by its earthly beginning and its earthly end, birth and ascension. He rules the world with a rod of iron, as we read in Psalm 2 and Revelation 19, verse 15. By stating the bookends of Jesus' earthly work, John alludes to all that stands in between. The male child is obviously Jesus. This means that the woman of verse 1 cannot be the church, because Jesus gives birth to the church, not the other way around. The woman must therefore be either Mary or Israel, the only two women who could have given birth to Jesus. Future verses will demonstrate that this woman is Israel, not Mary. Revelation 12, verse 6. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, so that she would be nourished for 1,260 days. The woman in the wilderness. Persecuted by the dragon, the woman is protected by God in a prepared place for 3.5 years. That's the second 3.5-year period of the final 7 years of the Daniel 9 prophecy. Prepared is the same as I go to prepare a place for you. Read John 14, verses 2 and 3. This demonstrates that God's careful planning works for his people on earth as well as in heaven. Some believe this place in the wilderness is the rock city of Petra, south of the Dead Sea. Christian businessmen have stocked the place with food and evangelistic tracts written in Hebrew. This verse also helps us to understand with certainty that the woman is Israel and not Mary. How could Mary possibly flee into the wilderness in this way? Now, this wilderness place is probably the rock city of Petra, south and east of Dead Sea. For Isaiah, in the 16th chapter, God says to Moab, which is present-day Jordan, "Open up your borders and receive my people. Shelter them in Petra until the tribulation is complete." So until the indignation be overpassed, indignation is the Old Testament word for the Great Tribulation. So they will flee to the rock city of Petra, where God will take care of them for 3.5 years. Now, how could God take care of them there? Well, he took care of them for 40 years in the wilderness before. He fed them manna. He could feed them manna again. God has no problem feeding people. He fed Elijah with ravens. Ravens brought his food. So God will take care of them for 3.5 years. Revelation 12, verse 7. And there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon. The dragon and his angels waged war. Revelation 12, verse 8. And they were not strong enough, and there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. Conflict in heaven. War between Michael and Satan. We should notice that this is truly not a battle between equals. Satan is not the counterpart of God. God has no counterpart. If anything, Satan is the counterpart of Michael, who seems to be the chief angel opposite this chief of fallen angels. But Satan was accusing the brethren. That is what he is doing up there. He does have access into heaven, but here, shortly before he is going to get kicked out. Michael and his angels are going to fight against him, and going to prevail against him, and he is going to be cast out. Revelation 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Satan and his angels are cast out of heaven. Note the titles and descriptions. Dragon, serpent of old, the devil, Satan, who deceives the whole world. He is vicious, an adversary, an accuser, and a deceiver. The word devil means accuser or slanderer. Satan means adversary or one who lies in wait. The 4 falls of Satan. From glorified to profane. Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 14 through 16. From having access to heaven. Job 1:12, 1 Kings 22:21, and Zechariah 3:1, to restriction to the earth. Revelation chapter 12. From earth to bondage in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Revelation 20. And from the pit to the lake of fire. Revelation 20. Jesus' words in Luke 10, verse 18, either refer to the first fall, or it is a prophetic look ahead to the second fall at the midpoint of the 7-year tribulation period. Revelation 12, verse 10. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, Now the salvation, and the power, and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren has been thrown down, he who accuses them before our God day and night. Revelation 12, verse 11. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb, and because of the word of their testimony, and they did not love their life, even when faced with death. Revelation 12, verse 12. For this reason, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has only a short time. A joyful declaration in heaven. Satan's work of accusing only ends here, when he is cast out from his access to heaven. Today we have and need an intercessor and advocate. Hebrews 7:25 and 1 John 2:1. Verse 11 provides 3 keys to the saints' victory over Satan. The blood overcomes Satan's accusations. Those accusations mean nothing against us because the price has already been paid by Jesus Christ. We may be even worse than Satan accuses us of being, but we are still made righteous by the work of Jesus on the cross. Read Ephesians 1:7, Colossians 1:14, and Hebrews 9:14. Although we do not regard the blood of Jesus in a superstitious way, it is not a magical potion, nor is it the literal blood of Jesus, literally applied, that saves or cleanses us. If that were so, then his Roman executioners, splattered with his blood, would have been automatically saved, and the extent of salvation would be limited by the number of molecules of Jesus' literal blood. The blood speaks to us of the real, physical death of Jesus Christ in our place, on our behalf, before God. That literal death in our place and the literal judgment he bore on our behalf is what saves us. The word of their testimony overcomes Satan's deceptions. They need not be deceived because they have known and remembered the work that God has done in their lives. As faithful witnesses, they have a testimony to bear, and because they know what they have seen and heard and experienced from God, they cannot be deceived by Satan's lies telling them it isn't true, as the testimony of the man born blind in John 9:25. Loving not their lives overcomes Satan's violence. If they do not cling to their own earthly lives, then there really is not a threat that Satan can bring against them. If they believe to live as Christ and to die as gain, as in Philippians 1:21, then how can Satan's violence against them be effective? Heaven rejoices at the eviction of Satan, but heaven's gain is the earth's loss. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and sea! Satan's power is real and terrifying, but not because he is triumphant, but because he knows he is beaten, and he has a short time left. Like a wounded, cornered animal, he can fight with great ferociousness. Why doesn't he just give up? Don't forget that Satan is utterly depraved and probably insane. He may have deceived even himself into thinking that he has a chance. A better question is, why don't we give up? Our rebellion against God makes even less sense than Satan's. Revelation 12:13. And when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. Revelation 12:14. But the 2 wings of the great eagle were given to the woman, so that she could fly into the wilderness to her place, where she was nourished for a time, and times, and half a time, from the presence of the serpent. Revelation 12:15. And the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, so that he might cause her to be swept away with the flood. Revelation 12, verse 16. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and drank up the river which the dragon poured out of his mouth. Satan attacks the woman. God protects her. Some have taught that the woman is a symbol that represents all the people of God, including faithful Israel and the church. They'll use this to advance their idea that the church is here during the tribulation period. But if the woman represents all the people of God, the church and faithful Israel, then who are the rest of her offspring? It is better to see her as Israel in general, or Messianic Jews in particular. The fury poured out against Israel after the abomination of desolation, marking the halfway point of the final 7 years of man's rule on earth, was spoken of by Jesus in Matthew 24, verses 15 through 22, and spoken of in distinctly Jewish terms. Housetop, pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath. This passage in Revelation is the fury that Jesus told them to flee. Eagle's wings are an emblem from the Exodus deliverance, Exodus 19, verse 4, another way of connecting this people who are delivered with Israel. Some have wondered if the reference of the 2 wings of a great eagle does not in fact describe a great military transport plane used to evacuate people in an emergency situation. Revelation 12, verse 17. So the dragon was enraged with the woman, and went off to make war with the rest of her children, who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. The wrath of the dragon is focused against God's people. This may be a reference to Israel, or specifically believing Jews, and Gentiles, the rest of her offspring. This either begins or continues the fierce persecution of all those who would not submit and worship to this great satanic dictator. The martyrs of this period were shown to us in Revelation 6, verses 9 to 11, and 7, verses 9 to 17. It is precisely when Satan has lost the battle for the souls of saints in heaven that he begins the fruitless persecution of their bodies.